Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today at our Wednesday webinar. Super excited to have you here. And let's dive in here. Today, of course, we're going to be chatting a lot about summer camp and COVID updates, all of that. But first, let me dive on in here and chat really quickly just about some of the latest news and happenings around the CPC. For those of you who haven't seen these yet, we do have all of those pre-camp leader meeting webinars available. You can check them out at cpcbsa.org/precamp. For those of you who are headed to camp with us this summer, we're super excited to have you, and you can get all of the Q&A there, lots of great information there from the camp directors, so check that out. And next up here, we have the guidelines, of course, are available as well at cpcbsa.org/campforms. That's cpcbsa.org/campforms. There are guides there for Cub Scout camps as well as the Scouts BSA camps. So go ahead and download those. Highly encourage all leaders, of course, and all parents who are interested. It's just great information for you to read through that, even if you're not going to camp. But if your son or daughter is going to camp with us, check it out. It's just really, really good stuff to get familiar with because it's a lot of information to digest, but really, really important stuff. So check that out at cpcbsa.org/campforms. We have all of that there. Also, Adventure Club is on its way. Not only back, it's here. We actually just had Hiking Challenge, which was awesome. Right now we have the Summer Experience. It's a hiking, paddling, biking excursion extraordinaire. Lots of fantastic prizes, great stuff to share with everyone. And so check that out at cpcbsa.org/adventure club. And right now we are finalizing all the registration and everything for Scout Quest 2, which is going to happen in August. So check that out at cpcbsa.org/adventure club. All right. Also, if you haven't seen this yet, we've been hounding on this, and what a great opportunity for Labor Day for your family. You can come hang out at Camp Meriwether and have the beach pretty much to yourself. That is a pretty neat deal. So if you haven't made any camping reservations or had a heck of a time getting reservations, jump on in here at cpcbsa.org/family camping and join us at Meriwether. It's going to be fantastic. And also Ranch Camp. For those of you who missed out, you should go check out the Butte Creek Facebook page. They posted a whole bunch of pictures. We posted some as well on the CPC BSA Facebook page too for Ranch Camp. Some great fun that they had there. And it's on again in August. So check it out here. Let's actually take a listen to what Scott DiPaolo has to say about Ranch Camp.
Howdy, folks. Hey, I'm Scott DiPaolo. I'm the head wrangler out here at Butte Creek Scout Ranch. And I'll tell you, the ranch ain't all about riding and roping and doing cowboy stuff. We do some other things out here. Like this summer at Ranch Camp, we're going to teach you how to fly fish, how to cook over an open fire, and how to find true north by the stars. How to guide yourself when you have no other way to go. And we're hoping that you'll come out and you'll enjoy Ranch Camp with us. So get on cpcbsa.org, check us out, or just call in to 503-226-3423. You're going to talk to Deanne. She's going to point you in the right direction for getting signed up. Can't wait to see you out here this summer. Make it a great day and happy trails.
Get all the details, of course, at cpcbsa.org/ranch camp for that. It's just a blast. What a fun experience for kids ages 13 and up. So check it out. And also here we have AeroCorps, which is a fantastic service opportunity. It's going to be happening at Willamette National Forest. It's a week-long service project, basically, with the Order of the Arrow, but any scouts are welcome. And it is going to be really, really great. Check it out. You can check this out at cpcbsa.org/OA. We'll play this video there. You can check it out there. And so we'll optimize a little bit of time here, give a little bit more time today for some Q&A, but it's great. What a fantastic opportunity to really help out. If you play in the woods, back in the woods, what a great way to give back. All right. We also have some new unit annual planning tools at cpcbsa.org/planning. Some great new tools there. Check it out. We'd also love your feedback because these are new tools. They're digital and some really copy paste kind of tools that you can really organize your year and plan for your year next year. So check it out at cpcbsa.org/planning. cpcbsa.org/planning. Also, some recruiting resources for those of you who are just active in doing stuff or planning for the next year and really want to get more kids involved in scouting. We have some great resources there for you too at cpcbsa.org/recruiting. And what's awesome is all the materials send everybody to the grit page, as we call it kind of here internally, or folks out there have been calling that as well, where kids who are interested can get a free adventure kit at cpcbsa.org/grit. And they get a great email series their parents do about just teaching them about scouting and scouting here in the CPC. And it's just great stuff. Lots of great feedback on that and some great success. So check that out at cpcbsa.org/recruiting. Tools you can just copy paste. All right. Now I'm going to welcome in Todd McDonald here, who's going to give us all of the who's and what's and whatnots when it comes to our COVID-19 updates for the CPC. And actually, Todd, give me 1 second here because I think I actually need to make you a host as well so we can see your handsome face here. Hold on 1 second here. All right. Now we see you. See your smiling face. He's been reading up on all this stuff, keeping us in the loop for almost a year and a half on this. You and the COVID task force, what a blessing. Oh my gosh. Is it almost over? I don't know. Anyway, why don't you dive in and tell us the latest and greatest, Todd?
All right, let's go to the next slide. Well, welcome everybody. Again, as always, hey, Chris, while I am talking here, could you reload the slides? I made some changes and I'm showing that they're not showing. So as we get into this, there's going to be two different piles of information that we're trying to do, and part of it is going to be making sure that people are aware of what's happening for our summer camps. The campers that are at camp this week, we do have people in camp this week, are getting kind of a hybrid of some of these guidelines and things as we move forward. And because we just received some new guidelines on Friday. And so we'll talk more about that. We're also going to talk about in-person meeting guidelines, and we have updated those. However, all of a sudden, which tends to happen, Cascade Pacific Council has both Oregon and Washington in our purview. And so Washington hasn't changed much of anything since our last update. So now we have two sets of guidelines, the Oregon guidelines and the Washington guidelines. And so please, we'll talk a little bit about here today, but as far as the in-person meeting guidelines that we'll be talking about today are for Oregon. Washington guidelines have not changed. All right, next slide. Okay, so there's some things that we should be thinking about, some factors that have definitely influenced our decisions and what we're trying to do. Again, we have had no COVID cases linked to scouting activities in the Cascade Pacific Council, knock on wood. And most scouters want less mitigation. Probably should have done a poll, that'd been fun to find out, but people are anxious to get back to much closer to normal but we just still have a significant amount of people who are still very cautious and concerned. And so finding ways to meet them is important. When we evaluate the state guidelines, we found out, whether it's Oregon, Washington, Idaho, wherever, is that they tend to not fully account for the nature of BSA summer camping unit meetings and our outings. So it's important to realize that we've had to fill in some holes when it comes to trying to figure it out and making decisions about what's best. The OSHA guidelines will follow very soon, but they haven't changed. That's more for those people who work for the Boy Scouts at summer camp and with us. There's all these announcements, by the way, online about OSHA, but I've yet to receive my note from my message from my OSHA people giving me the release from the agreement that we signed in January. And then the governor updated new youth programs effective on, actually not yesterday, but I guess on Monday. So next slide. So I know that this is going to come up because there's been a lot of talk and everybody's very excited because the governor has basically says that all the steps that have been lifted then why do we still have rules for masking, social distance, etc.? Why are we having this webinar? Why can't we just say we're going back to normal? Well, on June 28th, Oregon enacted guidelines for summer and youth programs, reopening public health recommendations and requirements. So basically, it's not everybody and it's not everywhere. So summer camps have guidelines. We also have people from different levels of comfort and risk. We need to be support. And we should try to be consistent with other camps around us, especially in the state of Oregon. And again, I don't know if you're aware, but Oregon is licensed to operate under the statutes for organized camps, which means that we have to apply to operate our camps, and the state holds our license to do so. So we don't get to do whatever we want, whenever we want. We have to, the health department actually comes and visits us every year, in addition to our national camp accreditation process, to make sure that we're following all the guidelines. Next slide. So regardless of then, now, and until someone says the pandemic is over, we need to be talking about these things: cohorts, masking, social distancing, sleeping, feeding, screening and testing, sanitation and response. I didn't mention before in the previous slide, but the guidelines also have been updated for, again, youth programs, for daycare, for I think schools, early childhood ed, and the like. And so we still are falling under most of those guidelines, which is also why there's still guidelines for unit meetings in the state of Oregon. All right, next slide. So let's talk about cohorting. Although in Oregon, the stable cohort restrictions have been lifted, it is important to remember that if a COVID-19 positive case occurs, everyone that had exposure should quarantine in accordance with state, local, public health authority guidelines. This is why it's so important to minimize the contact with people from other groups as much as possible. And so we're not done with this, and so cohorting is a mitigation to and protection for our youth. I think it's also important to realize too, thank you, Chris, that a significant portion of our population are not able to vaccinate. And so we have to be able to protect them too. So we need to be consideration of them as we're interacting. All right, for summer camp, we are now talking about a program cohort. All right, so this is a natural group of scouts who associate with each other throughout the camp session, rotate through the various camp offerings. So for all of our camps, what's going to happen is we're putting every group into these program cohorts, and they'll rotate around camp doing various things. And they'll go to the waterfront and work on waterfront merit badges and swim or whatever. And then they'll go to shooting sports and they'll shoot or work on shooting stuff or whatever. And so they'll just rotate around doing it. And so these program cohorts are going to be part of that. And again, we want to make sure that these cohorts are made up of parents and scouts from the same unit, but that's not going to always be possible, especially for Cub Scout camping. And and we'll be mixing probably some of those for Human Scout BSA, because some troops only bring like 1 or 2 people. And so we'll need to figure out how to rotate them into this program. Okay, program cohorts may be formed from small units and individuals. Again, we're trying to link up small units when they're coming to camp to go ahead and make this program cohort. And again, communication for your cohort should happen prior to arrival. Units with 10 or more scouts attending camp at the same time will be required to declare their programs upon arrival. Most likely, they'll already be assigned and programs will be developed. Next slide. Again, program cohorts should stay the same all week. So just because, let's say you have a troop of 20 kids and you've got 2 cohorts of 10, and one group is going to the waterfront today, and somebody from the other cohort says, "Well, it's hot, I want to go to the waterfront with you." That cannot happen. The cohorts have to stay the same in all week long. Again, the state of Oregon requires that all dining and program interactions be tracked throughout the week. In the case of contact tracing is needed. So we need to make sure that we know who you've come in contact with. So the mixing becomes a very difficult thing to try to figure out while you're at summer camp. By the way, this state of Oregon, that's a requirement. Program cohorts will be up to 12 youth or so. This is primarily for quality program resource allocation. So if you sent 30 people into canoeing and we only have 5 canoes, let's just say, then you're not being good stewards of our resources. So we want to make sure that we're providing the best possible program that we can. And each program will be assigned a cohort limit to ensure that proper operation of this program can happen. So, you can only have so many people shooting a rifle at the same time. So we can't put, 5 cohorts at rifle. We should probably keep it down to maybe 2 or 3, depending on what we're going to do. So each camp will be assigning what those are. Just as an important piece to point out that Cub Scout camps and cohorting is a natural program for them. So we put people into camp cohorts and they rotate around camp already. This is always what we've done. So it'll fall nicely into that. So it's not really a big change other than we don't want the cohorts to mix with other groups. All right, next. Okay, so I want to make sure that as far as the unit meetings, that cohorting is a containment measure. Unit may not choose to. Units could, again, this is for unit meetings, not summer camp, and we'll be differentiating that. So this is a unit meeting Oregon requirement, is that units may choose not to act in cohorts, but make sure you know the risks. If you choose to do cohorts, they should stay the same for a week. Cohort size limit is up to the limit. It was recommended to be around 10 youth. Effort should be made to prevent cohorts from mixing. And so I just want to make it clear, in your unit meeting guidelines in the state of Oregon, cohorting is not required, just recommended. I'm going to take just 2 seconds, hold here on this slide. When do we need, Greg Davis asked, when do we need to let camp know who are in our cohorts? Well, sooner the better, but camp should be reaching out to you to figure that out. You could always, all of our camps, we'll get you their email addresses, but it's the camp name at bsa.camp. So Meriwether, Clark, Butte Creek, Pioneer, Baldwin, and you email them and start having conversations with them about program specific questions. I do not intend to spend a lot of time on each camp's program specific questions. Those should be done via conversations with the camp directly. Ellen Reynolds asked, will a group of 5 or 6 scouts at Camp Conroe be cohorted with others outside our unit, or can we assume that we'll be in our own cohort? Well, I would contact Camp Pioneer. There is situations where that may make sense and situations where it may not. So again, Pioneer at bsa.camp. And I know that she's trying to contact all of you directly in planning for coming to camp before you arrive. So please reach out to your camp specifically on your individual camp's cohorting needs. It says, if I understand, there is no traceable cases related to scouting in CPC. The state guidelines are relaxed and removed, and these are guidelines to begin with and not strict requirements. So why zero change in the measures? Well, we already covered that in a slide. There are guidelines that have been given that we have to do. And I'm trying to, the summer camp guidelines are based on most of those. There's a couple guidelines that we've maintained because of logistics and the fact that we've hired and programmed out a camp to operate certain ways. So, so you can, Chris, why don't you bounce back to that slide just to reiterate that answer, the if one. Nope. One more. Keep going. Again, if the governor says that all the steps have been lifted, then why do we still have rules for masking? So on June 28th, we have new guidelines for summer camp youth programs that have been given to us to operate. And we also are licensed under the state to operate camps. So the state health department the Oregon Health Authority and the state health department are in charge of making sure that we are following these guidelines. And so we still need to do that. Plus, there are people of many different comfort and risk levels, and we're also making sure that we're consistent with other camps. So we've met with the health authority, we've met with the health departments of each county, and we feel comfortable that these guidelines not only meet the guidelines, but also are approved by them so that we can operate. I understand that for some people would have heard that the Oregon has basically thrown off the roof on COVID, and everybody can do whatever they want. Unfortunately, when it comes to children, the governor has not completely released the guidelines. So you'll notice significant differences between what you can do at summer camp versus what you can do at unit meetings. A couple other questions here, and then I'll move on. I'm for this anonymous attendee, I am going to come to that one as far as we're only partway through this, so please bear with me. Please understand that for everybody that understanding our values in scouting and how we should interact with each other and how we should look at guidelines that are given to us and our responsibility to be trustworthy and all those things, it still applies. So just be patient. We'll get through all this, and we'll make a lot of work and a lot of people involved in all of this and care deeply. There are guidelines for carpooling. So guidelines for carpooling are recommended at this stage, so they're not required. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to, I think we were at, we just finished cohorts, I think. Keep going. Keep going. Masking, hey, there you go. So for summer camp, scouts must wear face masks at all times indoors. Again, this is required by the state of Oregon. Except while seated in the dining hall, for instance, sleeping or in the bathroom, regardless of vaccination status. The regardless of vaccination status is actually a BSA national rule, in that we are not, we've made a choice as a national organization not to make sure we have equity in dealing with people who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So that means we're going to go to the stronger rule for everyone, so that we don't have to point out who's vaccinated and who's not. Masks are not required outside unless there's a danger of mixing cohorts. So for the most part, like entering the dining hall or entering a program area, we're going to ask people to mask up, even if you're vaccinated. And then once you've entered the program area or dining hall, and in case dining hall and are seated, then you can take off your mask. You enter the program area and get assigned your spot, and it makes sense, then you'll take off the mask. So those are the main times you'll see. Let's say that your troop decides they want to have a campfire with another troop. Well, if you can't maintain social distance and the like, then you'll need to wear a mask, even if you're outside. Next one. All right, for units, masks must be worn indoors when unvaccinated youth are present. So if they have one unvaccinated youth indoors, everybody needs to wear a mask. And again, unit leaders will be in charge of identifying that as a case. Masks are not required outdoors, and masks are recommended to be worn when cohorts are used, and the mixing of cohorts is likely even outdoors. Again, that's a recommendation. The other two, the one on top is a requirement. Next slide. All right, vaccination. Vaccinated individuals are not required to wear masks or social distance indoors or outdoors, but must comply with dining hall and program area maskings at camp. What that should say. Again, the reasoning for that is to make sure that we can maintain equity and we're not allowed to identify or mark those who are vaccinated or unvaccinated. Vaccinated adults may move freely between cohorts as long as they sanitize their hands between groups. So if you think about a den meeting or an activity where you may be going from group to group, just sanitize your hands before you deal with the next group. Vaccinated youth are still asked to stay within their own cohorts at this time. Again, that could change if you're not doing cohorts as a unit. Vaccinated members are freely share sleeping space. Vaccinated members are still required to wash hands and to sanitize. Again, unit leaders are the main conduit in unit meetings and like to figure out, you know, in the planning stages of how you're going to deal with people's vaccination status. It shouldn't be an active part of your program. And so, yeah, I think that's it. Let's see. I look like I've got a few questions here I'm going to try to get to. I did answer the COVID masking questions. And let's see. I answered the Pasadena question. Let's see. Cameron. Cameron's commenting that my hair is much grayer than it used to be and maybe even lighter. We got camp emails. Okay, people, I'm just looking at. All right, just kind of running through the questions here. So Hugh Brown asked if state youth camp guidelines are updated, say mid-July, will camps operate under the new standards, assuming the standards are less strict? I doubt we'll see changes this summer. But again, understand it takes about 2 weeks. I mean, we had a pretty fast change. New guidelines came out on Friday. We're announcing them today. That is about as fast as you can operate because there is just to let you know, is that there's a whole, it's not like that they wrote this and you can say, oh, we can change X, Y, and Z thing. We have to go and review all the guidelines to make it work. So yeah, I mean, if changes are made for summer camps, we will act accordingly. So if our troop is split among cohorts, could we, at summer camp, could you have a campfire mess with masks? Yes. But again, please, this program question, that's the type of thing that the guidelines does accept. And there's a lot of nuances that are true so as well. So a vaccinated member, I don't know. I think there is a difference between vaccinated youth and vaccinated adult. Vaccinated adults in unit meetings have far more flexibility. At this time, we're still asking the vaccinated youth, if you're doing cohorting, do not move freely between cohorts. And that's again, that would be a recommendation on that for unit meetings. All right. Okay, I'm going to answer 3 more questions and then jump. Let's see. The vaccination slide, point 1, must comply. The way it says must comply with dining hall and program area masking, which was referred to previously. So you still need to wear a mask when you are entering dining hall and program areas. yesterday at NYLT, they advised individual transportation. Well, they have not got these new guidelines yet, so stay tuned. What are the changes so far? It doesn't seem to be any for camp. I'll let you decide that for yourself. At this point, there are significant changes with regard to, and we're not even done. So Horatio, at summer camp, and for everybody there at summer camp, you will only need to wear your masks when you are in the danger of mixing with other people, regardless of your vaccination status. Two examples that we know of is when multiple program cohorts will be entering a program area. They'll need to mask up until they're situated inside their program area with what they're going to do, and it makes sense to do so. The dining hall is another place where while you'll wash your hands, throw on your mask, go in and have a seat, and then you can take off your mask. When you get up to go get more food, then you can take off your mask. That's kind of how we're seeing that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. I will come back. Next slide. Again, summer camp, the 6 feet will be required between separate cohorts at all times. So if I'm in cohort A or cohort B, and think of dining, think of your program activities, think of even walking down the trail, I guess. Program cohorts, again, social distancing is not required but encouraged. So inside your cohort, so I am a troop and I bring in 20 kids and I have 2 cohorts. Each of my cohorts need to maintain 6 feet of distance between them, but inside that cohort, they can not wear a mask or social distance while they're outside. Now, again, we talked about the risking of cohorts, by the way, there's more than one slide on this, so before you jump on this, there's more to come. So here's the deal: if you have larger groups and they mix, and someone gets sick or comes down with COVID, then all of you will have to will have to work. The larger group will have to follow the COVID illness and the COVID infection guidelines. And that's whether you're getting on a plane or whatever. Now, obviously, if you're vaccinated, there's different rules and things that are there. So there's different levels of risk, I suppose. But understand that the larger group you have, the more danger for you or risk you have if someone gets sick, or especially if somebody shows up with COVID. It's recommended that adults travel with cohorts whenever they are outside for supervision. My guess is that you, as a unit leaders at this stage, will know which groups will need supervision and what groups don't. So whatever you can do can be helpful. All right, next slide. Oh, let's see. Go back up one. Seems to me that we missed one. No, we were there. I mean, go up one more. No. All right, go back to where we were. I'll just share. At summer camp, your unit may choose that inside your own campsite to be one basically cohort while you are all together. And you'll just need to you still have to maintain program cohorts and follow program cohort guidelines. But when you're together, your program cohorts can now freely mix, and you can choose to do that. So that means if I'm a troop with 20, I'm going to still assign 2 program cohorts of 10. But when we're in the campsite or doing unit activities, I am going to allow them to mix freely together. And that is a decision that you and your units can have. So I just want to let you know that you will be allowed to mix cohorting if you choose while you're in your unit groups. And so that allows for you to do unit-based activities without cohorting if inside your unit, if you choose to do that. That means that in your campsite, you could choose not, if all of your whole unit is in your campsite, you can choose that nobody wears a mask and nobody social distances. And so that is your guideline. I mean, whatever you want to do with that, it's up to you. But that does not extend to program cohorts. But we still, as you're rotating around, we want to try to make sure that we have some sort of containment. Next. Unit activities. So, I'm sorry, we got to go up to the next one, Chris. There we go. 3 feet is required between individuals indoors when unvaccinated youth are present. Youth are not required to social distance outside. So again, outdoor meetings makes a lot of sense. You can have a tremendous amount of freedom with social distancing and masking if you do outside things. Knowing that in the fall we'll probably see even a lessening of these guidelines for unit activities. I would just try to get used to meeting outside if you could. Okay, inside program cohorts, if you're going to do it inside your unit, you still don't need to worry about social distancing inside the cohort. Again, that's a recommended policy. Again, for those of you that are coming to summer camp, I guess you can take a little nap for this slide, unless you're in the Cascade Pacific Council in Oregon. A unit may choose not to use cohorts in your unit, and we've already talked about the risk of larger mixing. So it's up to units to decide in your unit activities of whether or not you want to use the cohorting or not. Next. All right, sleeping. When somebody sleeps in a tent or whatever with another person, they are considered having close contact for the guidance of social distancing, and not for social distancing, for contact tracing. And so just know that. If you're using the cohort method, which is recommended, we recommend that you must be from the same cohort where you're sleeping. Your buddies, all that stuff. Must sleep so that feet are 6 feet apart while sleeping. Again, remember, vaccinated individuals do not have an issue with where they sleep. When possible, other than our youth protection guidelines. When possible, extra effort to ventilate the tents and Adirondack should be done. Those concerned with close contact with other campers, adults should supply and pitch their own tent. And again, Cub Scout parents may still tent with their own child, but not other people's children. Next. I know this came out as very confusing for some, but the BSA doesn't allow for a parent of a Scout BSA youth to tent with their parent. So if that's an issue from you, contact your district executive or your council. All right. Dining, I get at summer camp. There's a bunch of stuff. Again, we'll be dining by cohort. Food must be served plated, no self-service, except for coffee. There may be a couple other. We're currently working with our health department to see what we might do, and we will be able to put things on the tables. Again, we want to make sure that we don't mix cohorts while seating. That the cohorts will be separated within the dining area by at least 6 feet. So, if your table is here, the next cohort will be 6 feet away. Masks will be worn at all times indoors unless you're seated. So if you get up to go get a cup of coffee or to get more food, then you'll need to put on your mask. Hand washing is required prior to entering, and the food service staff will remain masked as part of the OSHA guidelines. Now for unit, for the most part, all of this is recommended for your unit outings. The only thing that's required in the state is that they must wash their hands. So next. All right, summer camp. Recommend 14-day reduction exposure to public, this again recommended prior to attending. We just want people to try to reduce their exposure to others before they come. They must assess their health, be symptom-free prior to attending camp. So again, we recommend those who are not able to quarantine and may have come in contact to go and take a COVID test and are not vaccinated to take a COVID test before arrival. We will be doing screening, as this again is required, and those who are not healthy, are not vaccinated, will be and been exposed to COVID within the past days must complete a COVID test, and we will be continuing to do daily screening, so it will be reported to the camp office. Again, all this is still required under youth programs. For units, screenings at meetings and outings is still required, again, and you must keep records of attendance of those who have been unmasked, contact for more than 15 minutes within 24 hours while at a scouting activity. So if you're cohorting, you're going on a camp out, or you're in a meeting, that meeting you need to be able to say who these people had access to. You need to keep that list for 5 weeks. Again, Oregon rules. Next slide. Let's see, I will go ahead and answer sanitation and then jump into these other questions. So we're going to make sure all the bathrooms and showers will be cleaned each day. In some cases, we'll ask for units to help us with that. Units will be required to clean their outhouses and washstands each day. It's our plan to make sure they get sanitized, which just means somebody's going to walk around with bleach and spray them. They won't necessarily empty the garbage or replace the toilet paper. Hand washing must be done after using the bathroom and before eating. That's required. Alcohol-based hand sanitizer will be available in every campsite and program area. Youth and hand sanitation regularly will be promoted. So that's what you can expect at summer camp. For unit activities, scout meetings and camping areas should be sanitized prior to arrival. Hands should be sanitized between activities. Again, these are recommendations. Hand washing guidelines are still required. All right, so hand washing after using the bathroom and before you eat is required. The other two, as far as sanitizing prior to arrival, are all recommended practices. All right, I'm going to start with Leanne up here. Read and understand, but wanted to double check. Can a troop arrive at the same time with one trailer for 2 cohorts so that they won't have to find another trailer to use? I don't see that as a problem, Leanne, but that is a great question for your camp director. So again, we put in the chat, I believe, we put the email addresses for each of the camp, and I would ask you to reach directly for them. Some of that may have to do also with trailer, what they want done with trailers. And so I don't want to give you a firm answer, but that it does fit our guidelines to allow that to be done. Okay, let's see, Wendy, will there be enough sleeping facilities to allow for 2 different in ages be applied when they're in the same cohort? So yes and no. We still require that units bring tents just in case, and so there should be that should work out. But I mean, you can double check how many tents are going to be in your camping area. But all troops should bring an extra tent or 2 when going to any of our Scout BSA camps. And really, it's helpful for parents coming to Cub Scout camps to do that as well. If you've got one, toss it in the back of the car. You may not need it. By the way, that rule has not changed. It's always been that way. You never know what the situation is going to be, and we never know for sure who's actually going to be coming to camp until you guys get to camp. So anything can happen. We may have thought that you're bringing 18 kids and you bring 24 kids. Well, now you need tents. All right. In regards to Washington unit meetings, we are still under the expanded cohort model, no full troop meetings, even outside. That is correct. Vaccinated, we have published guidelines or are in the process of publishing the Washington only guidelines, which is very similar to the ones that we've had. By the way, if you're from another council, they may have looked at these guidelines differently. So I would check with them before I do not write the guidelines for all the councils in the state of Washington or Oregon for that matter. Dining hall dining. Will each cohort need 2 scouts to tend to tables? No. But again, double check on that. It is our plan that we will not need waiters like we did in the past. let's see. Okay. With the new rules, while the dining hall at Meriwether open now instead of delivering food. Chris, did you answer that? So I think it looks like he's answering that. Okay. Just to clarify, unit activity requirements are Oregon standards, not Washington. That is correct, Greg Davis. The we are publishing online. Chris, are those up yet? They're really hot off the presses. So
Yes. Yep. I've got
okay.
them posted.
So okay, if you can put a link to them in the box, that'd be great for the Washington and Oregon unit meeting guidelines. That'd be great.
Sure. And folks can go to cpcbsa.org/COVID and they'll see it there. And I'll put it in the chat too.
Thank you so much. Okay. For our records of attendance, is unmasked contact considered 6 feet or 3 feet? It's considered 6 feet. Within 6 feet. Thanks, Kara. All right, and I'm going to look over here. Do we need to avoid dining at an establishment prior to arriving at camp? I think that is wise to do. Again, ultimately, you may not actually affect camp, but you could drastically affect your unit. And so we're asking that now. There's some places where you could probably all stop and eat and socially distance and make it work. I mean, I know troops that are coming with like 3 kids and 2 adults. So if you wanted to stop in at Pietro's and everybody wear a mask or whatever, you'd be fine. So okay. Thanks, Mark. I am doing my best to go through. Mark said we're not seeing all the questions. Please use the question and answer. If you do that, that's very helpful to us as well. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. What happens if COVID-like symptoms arise? Okay, so for summer camp, if someone wakes up and they got a headache and a cold and throw up in the middle of the night, it needs to be reported to the health office. The individual is quarantined, all right, which means we're going to kind of isolate them in their campsite or someplace until we can complete a COVID test, of which we will administer. Individuals, individuals in the court will reduce interactions with program and other things until the COVID test is completed, which should be 15-20 minutes from the time that we give it. If the COVID test is negative, the cohort can resume normal functions. If COVID test is positive, then follow the infection protocols, which are coming. Again, if on a unit activity, if we should, just for the most part, if somebody is sick at a unit activity or meeting, send them home. Again, COVID test should be administered, and you can use some all of a sudden somebody's not feeling well, throw a mask on them or something to help do that. Just use some kind of common sense based things. We're not mandating anything. Just make good decisions on that, how you want to handle that for unit activities. Next. Again, what happens if someone tests positive at summer camp? Individual testing positive for COVID will be quarantined, and so they'll be they'll be put in a place where they won't have contact with any unvaccinated individual. The county Department of Health will be notified. Again, that's required. Based on the Department of Health directions, efforts will be made to remove the infected individual from camp. Contact tracing will be done and completed. Notified will be made to those who have had contact. The cohorts will be quarantined and restricted from participating in the program until the county health department has cleared them. So I want to make that sure that's not my rule. That's just what from talking to our health department, what they're going to do. Now they've given, depending on the county, they have different responses to that. But again, it's up to each county to tell us what to do, because we're no longer, and then we have to follow the health department's instructions. All right, so that's more or less what happens. Again, if it's a unit activity, then you need to contact council leadership in the health department to say that you've had contact. You need to inform families and those who came in contact. and you need to recommend to hold off meetings for 14 days to monitor symptoms. And again, infected individuals should seek medical care. I should point out in the state of Oregon, vaccinated individuals, as long as they're asymptomatic, may continue to participate in the program. We didn't put that in here, but that would come out when you contacted us. So, okay, next slide. All right. So let's see, let me answer some questions. This is our last slide. When we receive our, Lisa Krecklow asked if when we receive our program assignment. Well, my guess is if you're at Meriwether, I think you probably should have already, but please email Meriwether at cbsa.camp to do that. I don't know if she did the whole summer. Chris, do you know that? If she did the whole summer or just a few weeks at a time. So again, I don't know that for sure.
For cohort assignments?
Yes.
Yeah, that she got through week 1.
Okay.
that was a complex enough math equation.
Typically the week prior to arrivals, the goal is making sure everybody knows what they're going to do that week, because your units are changing things left and right on us. And so so I think that's best answer for that. All right, Kara Kirtland, you mentioned that they need to mask as they enter program areas. Is masking required while walking from camp to program areas? Only if you're in danger of mixing. So if there's nobody else around, don't wear a mask. If the trail is full of people, then wear a mask. If your youth can't make make that determination, then an adult should go with them at all times when they're out and about. All right, Mary, is there a recording link for the NYLT meeting that was held? Thank you. We'll have to check with your NYLT Scoutmaster on that. I do not know. If you want to email me directly, I can connect you. If you don't know your Scoutmaster who conducted that meeting. Again, all right. All right, Tammy, so the tests that we have at camp are rapid antigen tests. And so those have been accepted by the health department for those who have COVID symptoms. All right, so now I'm going to check the other pile here. Oh, you didn't record it. So I guess the answer for NYLT, since we have an assistant scoutmaster for NYLT on the line, is make sure if you have any questions, make sure you contact your scoutmaster for NYLT. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish with this last slide. For me personally, and I will just tell you this as a human being who's been in charge of evaluating and working with the guidelines this past year and a half, being, as I get kind of teased about, I'm the king of COVID for the Cascade Pacific Council, which is not really true, but it seems like I am the pooler of all information. It is an emotional thing for most people, many people, this whole year, including myself. You want to do what's best for everybody. You want everybody to be able to do what they're comfortable with. You want to make sure that you're following the state guidelines. And let me tell you, those 3 things, none of that is easy. None of that's even possible. So you have to go with integrity. So I put together this this comment here, and I'm just going to read it out loud, just so that we understand that we can reframe ourselves and situate ourselves back into who we are and how we should interact as we work through this process and come out of COVID together. COVID has taken its toll on our world, nation, communities, and families. Each person has developed different risk tolerances and belief systems surrounding COVID mitigation and their own comfort in participation in activities. Scouts showed courtesy and kindness to those who are tolerant, whose tolerance to risk of exposure is different from their own. Scouts show a cheerful and friendly demeanor to those who are struggling to be brave during these crazy times. Scouts are trustworthy and obedient to the rules of the land. Scouts loyally work to maintain cleanliness at all activities. Scouts show reverence to those who have lost someone to COVID. Scouting is helpful about making good choices through the lens of our values. Let's work together to be thrifty as we slowly reclaim a new sense of normalcy in the coming months. So that is the end of the slide deck, I believe. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
So I am going to sit here and do my level best to answer as many questions as I can, and will not leave until you guys are done with me. So just want to let you know that, Chris, I'm echoing in you. Chris, there, thank you. I know that you said this, but just to clarify, do adults still need to accompany scouts, BSA cohorts to program areas, or is it only if your scouts can't handle the lack of supervision? You know, our current policy right now is still that there needs to be supervision until there doesn't. And my guess is that we're going to start off more restrictive on this one, and will become less restrictive as we see what's possible. So that's a non-answer. I understand. It is it's probably, we're going to start off by making sure that you've got supervision at first, and when we decide to release that could change mid-session or mid-summer. So I guess be patient with us on that one. Yeah, that's a good question. Just to clarify, previously we required an adult to do a court. So is that not required? Well, I just think I answered that. It's going to be required at first for sure, and definitely for Cub Scout camping. Are units still being asked to self-quarantine 2 weeks? Yes, we recommend that they self-quarantine prior to camp. They will be screened upon arrival. They'll be asked certain questions, and if they fail that, then they'll need to follow whatever process has been determined by their county's health department. Can you please clarify dining situation at Meriwether? Okay, well, as of right now, the dining hall is filled with bunk beds. And so all the food is being delivered to the campsites. Once the bunk beds are gone, which should happen within the next 3 to 7 days, then because then we will move to dining hall feeding. They have
Todd, I'm not sure that's correct.
Okay.
I would walk that one way back right now, because my understanding is any solution they've had is just very interruptive to the program that's established. So
I see.
Yeah, and the capacity isn't.
All right. So I guess until further notice, then the best way to say for Meriwether is that you'll be eating in your campsites by food delivery, and not in the dining hall until further notice. Thank you, Chris. When units meet indoors, are vaccinated members required to wear masks if unvaccinated members are present? Yes. However, I will let you know that that one I anticipate is going to be walked back from state guidelines. But to get to that one, I had to merge a bunch of different guidelines together to get to that. So I went more restrictive. So the idea, again, what you don't want to do, it's not about the vaccination status. It's about equity, making sure that you're not singling people out because of their vaccination status or their risk tolerance. That cannot happen. So if you can accomplish that with that and allow vaccinated members to wear masks, I suppose that we'll see in the coming months. But that is that's not a health issue, it's an equity issue. All right. Okay, let's see. By the way, I just want to make sure we will just walk back what the feeding at Meriwether is going to be. Looks like you're going to be get food in your campsites. Hey, I saw some of the food they're doing. I think it's fine. Well, a lot of kind of different. It's different, but again, not bad. And the nice thing is you know, it's easier to find a place to wash your hands. It's a lot easier to you know, get your food delivered. And so far, so good with that. So, all right, looks like got a Facebook question. Can a unit cohort be 13 youth? If we divide into 2, would that be 6 or 7? When it comes to summer camp, I think that that's a good question for your summer camp directors. My guess is that that would be okay. But I would reach out to them for sure. There's a lot of factors with that. As far as units, your cohort size is a unit decision for unit meetings. So if you're in a unit meeting, it's up to the unit to decide how big your cohorts are. Okay, if a scout is attending camp and will be unvaccinated, how will this affect sleeping and tenting? That person will arrive healthy, their tent mate will arrive healthy, and that unvaccinated youth will be exposed to their cohort freely, unmasked, and without social distancing, unless members of the cohort choose differently. And so a scout should work that out with their unit leaders and their as we go. So let's see here. For question from Facebook, question from Facebook. Are the lesson restrictions going to affect offerings, such as allowing the forge and welding? You know, I know that that is the intent. What actually happens is unclear. So, I can't say for certain that all of a sudden welding is going to be offered. But I know that with some of this, there allows for possible changes in how we look at the program. But that's going to be camp by camp, situation by situation. So unfortunately, I can't make a ruling on that. Can a unit cohort be 13? Oh, I already answered that question. Now I gotta go find out what Mark's first question was. Mark, I don't know what your first question was, what you were told yesterday.
Well, while you're digging for that, Todd, just a little more information on the program offerings and allowing forge welding, other kinds of things. We also have in our camps smaller than normal staffs, and also still are protecting our staff by making sure that they don't at any point have close contact with campers. And by close contact, again, that's the formal definition of the 15 minutes in close contact with somebody else who's not part of their cohort. Because once our staff gets sick, now all of a sudden our program gets restricted further instead of opened up further. So that's a concern. So those are two pieces of that.
Oh,
How open can the program go? It's kind of in a little bit, we know our regular program, and then this summer there's some amount of going by feel of, as we get accustomed to how does this new style of program work, what can we then offer?
Very good. Question in the question answer. CBC going to offer a COVID-19 guide, single pager. I'm working on that now, and so expect that to be out there for summer camps. It's not quite done yet. I have the challenge with this. I think that's Anthony, but I don't know. Is that each camp will have slightly different protocols, and it's hard for me to write one camp protocol because there's different feeding at Baldwin. There's a different number of people that are going to Meriwether. The Cub Scout camps offer way differently. So essentially I have to write 5 different ones. And so I'm working with the camp directors to do that. So we're going to let this what we are going to do is clean up this document here that we have in this slide to be just the guidelines for summer camp. And then we'll turn that into hopefully camp specific guidelines as we go. Now, as far as the in-person meeting guidelines, those are not single page, but those are available online now. Okay, let's see. Mark, thank you very much. Yeah, I made a boo-boo. Oh, you know, it's probably Mark had asked you a question about Meriwether dining hall inconsistency, and so when we as we look at what's happening, in the sheer dynamic of all these things. If we could go run camp like we've always known how to do, which we can't, then a lot of this would be easy. The answers would be easy. But some of the things we're going to find out by you coming and understanding the guidelines yourselves and maybe making suggestions. But I will tell you this: remember that we opened up the door to possibilities of your unit being able to do unit activities while you're at camp. I'd let that ruminate a little bit and ask yourself how that might fit for things that you could do that you weren't planning on doing when you're coming to camp. What are you going to throw in the trailer or in your backpack, or what things can you do knowing that you're going to probably have some evening time or some time to you where it's just going to be you and your unit hanging out in the woods together. So just something to think about. All right. For those of you that are done listening to me speak and don't have any more questions, I want to let you know that we are done. But I'm just going to continue in answering questions until there's no questions to answer. So where will the summer camp specific guidance be posted when available? Ooh, probably on the COVID page. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. So cpcbsa.org/COVID. And again, it's going to start off being a PDF of this slideshow with the unit meeting stuff pulled out. All right. Will registration numbers increase from current guidelines for later sessions at Meriwether? Well, maybe. I'm not sure what our, I'm not sure that we don't have room now at later sessions. So I would double check that. You can email us at 492.camping@cpcbsa.org. No, at scouting.org. Dang it, Chris. What's the email? I'm a little mush. It's been a busy last 48 hours. But if you contact us and ask if you want to add people or come to summer camp, we'll do whatever we can to help. The health department has asked us to maintain lesser quantities than what we were planning than the full capacity, which is still quite a bit of campers. And each health department's been a little bit different as to those requests. So we're doing our best to put that all together for you. So again, if you want to go to camp or if you have extra people you want to go to camp, please just let us know and we'll see what we can do. Great. Thank you, Go. In Oregon, if you are attending back-to-back camps, Clark Butte Creek is negative test in between required. No, it is not required. You will be asked to screen upon arrival, and if you have COVID symptoms or if you've been exposed to COVID, then that may be different. Okay. Hey,
Todd,
10 seconds without a question.
Did you see, Todd, there's a question up above a little bit there about from Facebook being told that campers cannot fly 2 weeks prior to camp. And there's airline pilots who are parents who are coming to camp. You see that one?
Well, I can't speak for the airline rules, and I'm sorry, I don't know them.
Well, I think it's more of the camp rules if somebody is flying.
We do not have any guy arrive at camp healthy.
Right.
We recommend certain things, don't mix with other people 14 days ahead of time. If you can't take a COVID test prior to arrival, those are available for about $10 a test if you want to do a rapid antigen test, which is not really great for if you're not symptomatic. That test is really good if you're symptomatic. It's more reliable, I should say. But that's up to you to decide. I mean, the danger you have with that is that if you get here with a kid and then that kid gets sick, right? And that doesn't mean about COVID, just normally, what are you going to do? There are some guidelines that the state has given us. We have to have isolation areas. We have a COVID response. Most of that you've seen. We have some stuff that is not part of that. And so you just need to do your best to do what you can to get people here safely and healthy. Okay. Tracy, did you email 492.camping about your request as well? If you didn't, please do that as well. And because that's where we monitor some of that. So, and Tracy, you don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I am. I'm going to put it in here. Here's my email. And so if oh, you did talk to Deanne. Okay. All right. So the right people are working with you on that. So thank you, Ellen. Very kind of you. Thank you. Ellen said, another question, been attending the COVID-related webinars like this for a year. Your approach is consistently thoughtful, and it's clear that you put a lot of effort into learning everything you can. Provide you clear guidance. So thank you. I didn't point out below, I have for all the other ones, is that last night at 5 o'clock, I met with our COVID task force, and we had a surprise guest, though we always invite her, from the Tillamook Health Department. Our health inspector was on there as well. And so all of this was discussed. There were some people who wanted more restrictions, some people that wanted less restrictions. We had doctors, physicians, safety professionals, board members, camp people. And so we're all there to review this stuff, and they're who validated the guidelines that we have here. Oh, daytime visitors allowed. Okay, Diana, that was a great question. Unfortunately, this week, no. But it is our plan to announce a guest policy, hopefully by the end of the week. As of Friday, the guidance changed about daytime visitors in camp, and we are planning on allowing that. However, we're going to tighten it down just a little bit, because everybody who arrives needs to be screened. We need to know that you're coming. We need to make sure that interactions and social distancing and our ability to contact trace is all being done. So there's some complexity to making allowing guests to arrive happen, and we are in the middle of that discussion right now. So that was a great question. Unfortunately, look for guidance coming. As of right now, no, but it's coming. What I would do, if you here's what I would say as a good guideline for now. If you would like to arrive as a guest at camp, then email that 492.camping@scouting.org. Tell them when you would like to come and who you'd like to see, and that will start the process. So Diana, that will be part of the process. That's one thing we did decide, I think, today, is that we'll handle all that through Deanne and Jeanette. We'll be dealing with that centrally and let people know.
And I may be speaking a little out of turn on this one, but it seems like I know some troops and packs have like parents' night at camp to wrap up the week and stuff, and that is going to continue. That's probably going to continue to be ruled out as an option, just because we don't want. That's a whole lot of new exposures into the camp environment, and just in terms of trying to keep everybody healthy. We've been really rolling with the mantra of simple wins, and I know that creates sacrifices in there too.
All right. Okay. So if you're splitting adults, some adults, an adult spending the night is not a guest. So they're going to be part of your deal. And so again, with the same rules apply, they need to arrive healthy, and as if they arrived on Thursday, and we need to know ahead of time that they're coming and when to expect them. That's from Kay Riley. All right. All right, let's see. Mark, I'm following down his question with adults being able to check out of camp for the day and then check back in. Ooh, Chris, did we make a call on that one? That's a specific that I'm not sure that we nailed down. It's kind of, I don't know how each camp is dealing with that.
I'm not entirely sure either, but that's a subcategory that we have not discussed since the change in the rules. Prior to that, it was just going to be, it's pretty much plan to stay. When you come to camp, plan to stay.
Mark, I don't want, I'd be guessing right now. It seems to me that there would be a situation where that could be possible, but I don't want to float anything out there until we've got time to nail that one down. That is, I know, on the list, but that's a good question. We have not figured that out, and we'll find out, probably this week what they actually did when that came up this summer. Well, obviously, whatever you want to do, reach out to your camp director. I mean, at this point, for a lot of those questions, you need to check in with them. Well, obviously, whatever you want to do, reach out to your camp. Chris, you're okay.
That was me just refreshing the Facebook page, and it likes to play the video. So, but I was just checking to see if there are any more questions.
I got another one from Diana. Being specific, we have an extra adult driving down to return kids back from camp. You would prefer to drive down Friday overnight and leave with the scouts on Saturday a.m. Yeah, I'd reach out to the camp director. My guess is that there's a way to deal with stuff like that, but we haven't specifically nailed that down. Again, if you're staying overnight, then you're considered an adult leader, so you need a medical form. You need, and this is not new. It's BSA policy. You need a medical form. You'll need to pay the overnight fee, and the like. So, so just check out with your camp director. So. That's a good one though, Diana. Thank you. Very thoughtful questions, challenging us a little bit. I am not offended that that we haven't nailed down every possible thing in the 5 days that we've had these guidelines working. Not that we weren't preparing before them, but so we still have some things we need to do. So I appreciate that.
Someone had asked if we would email the details of all this. So what we'll do, folks, is we'll have this recording, and the actual slides will be available as well. They'll be on our COVID page and the webinar update page. So you'll have access to all that. You could share that with anybody. That the slides really have all the great detail that Todd's answered all these questions through. And I think that's the best, easiest way for people to see the answers to those questions and kind of get the synopsis.
All right. Well, we've lost about half of our participants. I put in there my email address, so don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you have any questions or concerns. Again, at some point, the decisions that are out there have been vetted pretty well, thoughtful, and we know that for many of you, it comes with some emotion, and we'll do our level best to continue to be responsive. And I didn't say this before, but I was in charge of camp school. That's a school where we teach people how to run camp and the like. And I got outside and sat around a campfire, all social distance and all that. And it almost brought me to tears because I didn't realize how much I'd missed it. And a lot of the stuff about getting to camp and experiencing the wonders that are there and being able to do fun things and hang out with my friends was there. If a kid can't get 9 merit badges because of COVID, that's okay. That's okay. It's got to be okay. What I want to see is that their eyes light up, that they get to do things, hang out, and have a good time. And that the methods of Boy Scouts are, there's ways, we want to make sure that they're getting good leadership and that they you know, that they're working as a team in their patrols, and that they are, I think it's Scout BSA wise, you know, that they, you know, get to wear their uniform and have good adult role model involvement. They get outdoor program activities. I mean, these are the things that are the meat and bones of who we are and how we grow young people to reach their full potential. And so, you know, if they can't do, I know it's frustrating that we may not be able to do welding or blacksmithing, but in the big scheme of things, what we're doing here is so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think that's good. Thank you, Cheryl, in your question and answer, and the compliments out there. Appreciate all of that. And thank you all very much. And let's make this a great summer. And let's do
one quick
something.
question. Somebody asked, great question. Are staffers still being hired?
Yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Hey, if you as an adult want to become a volunteer commissioner, or maybe your NRA would like to help run a rifle range for a week, we have a medic that has to be gone for a while. So we're looking to try to fill out medics, RNs, EMTs, and the like. Boy, we're still looking for people. So to help fill gaps. If you had a youth who said, I don't care what council you're in, if you had a youth that said, I don't want to go to camp because they're just not doing everything I want to do, send them to us camp staff. As long as they're, you know, 16 and older, you know, we can use them. We can pay them for the summer. If they're 15, they can come for training for a couple of weeks. Please, you know, anything you can do, that'd be great.
Yep, and you can actually get information there at cpcbsa.org/camp staff, folks. You can see the availability there and all the information. I think that is all I'm seeing on Facebook here. So yeah, that's looking like it. One more down.
Hey, thank you all very much for all you're doing. Take care.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So excited to see everybody at camp. I know the staff is excited. The energy is palpable, and the scouts are excited. And like Todd said, it's more than just the merit badges. It is the entirety of the experience, the beach, the mountains, just being in the woods. It's fantastic, and being with your friends. So thanks all for joining us. We are putting a pause on the Wednesday webinars for July. That'll help us do some planning for the next year, but we will let you know if we have some more of these updates and these kind of news-oriented webinars. Also watch your email, because we'll have updates via email. For those of you who are registered for camp, you'll get an email on this, of course, but also all of CPC will get updated on this as well, because some of you haven't decided if you're going to go to camp. And so there's still some availability there. So this hopefully eases you into it, gives you more information, and lets you say yes to camp, because that's just going to be a fantastic experience at really any of the camps. And so many new great activities and features. And oh my gosh, it's just a beautiful, fantastic environment. I'm excited. I'm headed out to Pioneer tomorrow just to scope out the lay of the land. So it's just going to be great. So anyway, thanks all for joining us. Again, we will let you know if there are more updates. We're taking a pause for July for the official Wednesday webinars. We'll be back at it in August, you know, wheels up and rolling for the new year, the new school year, the new scouting year. So I hope you guys are having a great summer, and join us at camp. It's going to be fantastic. Again, we'll have any updates that come down the pipe, and we'll let you know via email, and let you know if we have any of these new webinars scheduled over the next month. So thanks again so much for joining us. Really appreciate all that you all have been doing to keep kids scouting during this crazy, wild year and a half. And we just can't thank you enough for just being engaged and keeping these kids fired up in scouting. You just can't beat it. So thanks so much all. We will chat with you soon.